Hi everybody, Keith here. Another glorious day. And I wanted to talk to everybody about how you hypothecate your authority on your younger generations. Basically, it all starts with the birth certificate. When you are raised up and want to get married, there are two ways you can get married. You can get married legally, or you can get married lawfully. There is a significant difference. When you get married lawfully, you are not hypothecating your authority whatsoever. You are maintaining your authority in your own right. When you get married by a legal society through licensing, which says that you are given authority from somebody else to do that which is illegal. And what you're doing then, when two adults meet and can join their lives and get married under their creator, that is who they follow. When you get married through a license, you are hypothecating your authority. You are giving up your authority to somebody else that then turns around and says they're giving you authority to go ahead and get married because otherwise it would be illegal. Doesn't make sense, does it? Well, understand that birth certificate, after you get married in a legal society and you have a birth certificate, you are then hypothecating your authority over that child to the state. That is the original delegation of authority that a man and woman as co-creators are supposed to be in agreement with to give that authority up. What happens, however, though, is both through the licensing of a marriage and the birth certificate, both are unlawful contracts. Both. First of all, the license to get married is unlawful because it is a quasi-contract that is not fully disclosing that you are giving up authority over your future property. And understand, people, these are specific words I'm using to help you understand what's going on. When you hypothecate your authority, you are pledging your authority as mom and dad of your offspring, of your heir, to that of the state. And understand also, the state, each state has its own independent sovereign power which resides over the sovereign power of all 50 states together. Because each state has the ability to act independently. And our forefathers designed this specifically so that if one state came up with something that was legitimate for all 50 states, in other words, helped improve the status of their state, then all 50 states, all the other states could take adherence to that and put it forth into their system. And as the federal government, America, the union of the 50 states, they gave that their state authority to their residents, to their citizens, people that inhabit that state. When parents do this birth certificate, they are pledging their authority to the state. They're relinquishing their offspring's, the heirs' authority by that birth certificate, by their marriage license. In a sense, because I still myself, like I said, the birth certificate is fraud. Like I was saying, it's the mom and dad are co-creators. And in order for that birth certificate, which is a trust, in order for it to be valid, it has to have the agreement of both of those co-creators in accordance with that property that they're assigning as state property. Without that, it's fraud. Period. So every time you get married, anybody that gets married through a license and then has children and puts forth a birth certificate, you're, in a sense, hypothecating, pledging your children as slaves. Period. Plain and simple. When you sign documents without knowing what those documents say, without knowing the words that they're using, without knowing the terms that they're using, without using the numbers that they're using, then you're just giving away stuff that you don't even realize you're giving away. And so when my mom said, Keith, the police are your authority, in a sense, she was right, because she herself had hypothecated her own authority over me to the state. At least that's what the implication is. That's where they get the implied consent. That's where they get the presumption. And you have to rebut all of that with truth, with plain truth. Period. Plain and simple. And the only way you're going to ever get any truth is by awakening, opening up your eyes, and seeing things for what they really are. I know there's a lot of people that like the comforts of life, and so they don't teach their children anything about the realities. They teach them how to live life in that comfort zone without going beyond it and finding out what's happening in the real world. And without that, you end up with people like myself who are in their later adult life, who are finally realizing this, and after a lifelong tribulation of problems with legal society, knowing in my heart that I'm a good person and I do good deeds, and yet this other person or group of people say that you're not supposed to do that. You know, we hear things today in today's world where people get caught up in floods, and the police in the United States want to say, well, we're afraid to help them because we're afraid we're going to die. Therefore, we're going to arrest you if you try to help them. They're trying to arrest people that are trying to be heroes, whereas in other countries, people will just blatantly jump in the water and do what they can, regardless of their own life. That's the authority of life. The authority of life is within yourself. And if you give that up in any way, shape, or form, then you've pledged your own authority. And if you do, like I said at the beginning of the video here, if you get that marriage license and do the birth certificate, those are the two foundational documents that this entire legal society depends upon. The entire banking and legal society depends on those two instruments. They are instruments, financial documents. The marriage license and the birth certificate. Those are what allow the Social Security number. When you go around signing your name without realizing what you're doing, it's because you're in too much comfort. You're too complacent. You're too willing to believe what other people tell you. Yes, Danny, yes. The House blocked the Sessions police state. Yes, Mr. Sessions. What a fucknut. They are oath-breaking and law-breaking with a badge. Correct. As far as oaths, I don't know if they're breaking oaths because I haven't broke down the oaths well enough yet. But understand, I myself, as I'm sure most of other people through their upbringing in this society, in other societies, all of which law is foundational on religion. Religion is based upon belief. Therefore, law is still just merely one's belief over another's belief. Inherently, however, we have the law of nature. Like I was explaining before, the cops here in the U.S. will try to arrest somebody jumping in the water trying to save somebody from drowning. We can't do that anymore. This situation with the nurse down in Las Vegas getting arrested because she refused to hypothecate her authority to the officer, which was her, and her authority in that medical society was foundational upon things that were already set up, and the cop was trying to say that he had higher authority than that even, and that was the authority that guides him. So yeah, he was completely out of line. He lost his second job, and he should lose his position as a policy enforcer as well. If you don't even know the policies you're enforcing, then how can you be a policy enforcer? Period. So again, back to the hypothecation, your younger generation. You have to understand these documents you're signing by reading them word for word. And you have to understand that when things are all capitalized, that's not a word. It's not a term. It's a name. It's a name of a corporation. If it's all capitalized, it's a string of symbols and not a string of letters. There's a difference, and this is stuff people have to understand. I was looking up, Michael, you mentioned something here about the UCC code 2381. An exercise of this UCC code, they will not take their oath of office lightly anymore. I don't know what that code says, but I do know I was reading the UCC code in regards to incomplete instruments, and basically it tells you in there, first you have numbers. Numbers reside over words, written words. Written words reside over typed words. Things like that. And I am here to tell you that the spoken word resides over anything that is written. Cops' law is mob or gang rule. Correct, it is. They think they are the law. I'll give you a little thing about that, Danny. Nice little humorous thing for people out there that have this problem with all these tow yards and impound yards taking their vehicles, their automobiles, their private property. In my particular situation, where I'm trying to assert my privacy and my rights to own what I own and not have a third-party interest in it, when I made a private agreement to purchase an automobile, that's what I did. As far as I'm concerned, I need not show proof of that to anybody. What it is they have to show their delegation of authority. They have to show the proper delegation of authority that says that they automatically have a third-party vested interest in it. And their excuse is that they have some damn microfilm down at the Department of Motor Vehicles that came from the manufacturer, that's listed as a manufacturer's statement of origin or manufacturer's certificate of origin. And on both of those, I believe it is defined with the word or term of vehicle. I did not purchase a vehicle. I purchased an automobile. Therefore, they still have no vested interest whatsoever just because that's what they want to define it as. My intent and purpose of using that automobile was private, not for commerce, not for public utility. So when they impounded that automobile, I simply went back to the guy that I purchased it from and told him, hey, could you do me a favor and go repo that automobile for me? So he went down and repoed the automobile. So basically, all kinds of ways to get around their gangship. But it's a matter of using your head. Knowing the words, the spoken word. and then turning around and looking at anything they want to write down. Numbers, words, terms, phrases, and ripping them to shreds with truth. And it can all be done because every last bit of it, like I said, and I explained it very simply, the license to get married and the birth certificate afterwards on your offspring, your heirs, are the two main documents that they use to entrap people. So when you break down and go to the truth of things, you realize that your Creator doesn't tell you you need a license to get married. Your Creator didn't tell you you need a license to move. Move, basically, any part of your body. And that goes in accordance with to where you want to go in life. That expands upon not just an automobile. As you see, I'm inside of an automobile. I'm inside of a carriage. So let's define carriage. Carriage. Gee, do I want to go here to the end of the street? Do I want to go from here to the end of the street, take a left and go down to the end of that street where there's a dock to a waterway, and then take that waterway to another dock somewhere else, and then travel in another automobile, another carriage, to another spot where I get into another carriage that has wings, so that now I'm traveling through the air. My Creator, as far as I know, gave me dominion over the land, over the water, and over the air. And that dominion says that I need to know those places. I need to know the land, I need to know the water, and I need to know the air. I need to know the creatures thereof, the ecologies of the biological workings of those climates, of those environments. And in order to do that, I have to have the free will and the ability to move upon that free will. So again, people, when you start signing these documents and hypothecating your own authority, understand, comprehend, learn, educate yourself on what you're actually doing before you do it. And in the meantime, if you don't, make sure that you retain it first by putting all rights retained, no rights waived, and then sign or autograph. Yeah, Carl Miller's a great guy. I've learned a lot of extensive faculties from him, not just in regards to driver's license and traveling rights. So, yeah, you have to expand upon your knowledge in all areas, because that's where our authority is acted upon. We have to be able to decide whether we have enough education to teach our children to swim. We have to have enough knowledge ourselves to be able to decide if we can teach our children how to fly. Just like we have to have enough knowledge to teach our children whether they can drive or travel, and that there is a difference. And if we understand that we get our authority from a Creator that is our authority, and we should not be giving it up. Period. And that's the foundation of our documents, or our document known as the Declaration of Independence. Our document of authority is not the Constitution in any way, shape, or form. The Constitution, in any sense, no matter which one you want to follow, is the authority given by the people, by the independent people, the individual people. stating that we are giving you this authority, we are pledging this section of our authority to delegate in good faith of our well-being, of our welfare. And that's what we have to do with our children. We have to pledge their welfare through ourselves, and rather through a fictitious entity. Because if anybody out there, anyone, thinks that a fictitious entity has any care, concern whatsoever over a living being, you are wrong. And if you think anybody working for that fictitious entity has a single concern or care for your children, again, you are wrong. Their concern is for that fucking paycheck. Anyway, I hope those that listen to this understand that every time you sign a document, you're doing it wrong. Educate yourself. Every time you read a document, you're doing it wrong. Educate yourself. Listen to your heart and hear what's in here first. Spoken word resides first, then your numbers, then your written words, then your typed words on paper, and then your typed words on your computer screens. That's your delegation of authority. When you speak in a courtroom, despite any document that's been entered, you can speak the truth, and as long as what you speak is the truth, no document can rebut it, and it rebuts any document within existence. The spoken word is truth. So speak to your children. Speak to them about truth, and quit hypothecating their authority by pledging your authority through the license and the birth certificate. Yeah, Pam, the Constitution does exist. It's written down in several forms. It's copied in several forms. But it is not signed by me. Not signed by anybody living today. Those that are signed by, those constitutions that are signed by people living today, is still just a hypothecation of authority, just still a pledging. That's all it is. If we retain our own authority, that's all that matters. And that can be done through spoken word. I don't care what document I've ever put out. If I'm in error, I to this day maintain that I retain all my rights, and I reserve all that, or waive no rights. I retain all my rights and waive none, period. And I can iterate that in any courtroom, and it has to be taken as spoken word. That's why when you go into these courts, these corporate courts, make sure that everything is on and for the record. If there's not a court reporter there, then it is not on and for the record. It is on the court record, which is not a court of record. Two totally different things. We have to understand this stuff so we can turn around and teach it to our children, so we can turn around and speak it to our children in the correct, common English, parse, syntax, grammar. All these documents that you see with all capital letters, if you look it up in the Oxford Common English Manual style or the Chicago Manual style, you'll see that they are not words, they are not terms, they are names made up of strings of symbols rather than words or terms made up of strings of letters. They are different. And this is the stuff that the courts, these corporate courts, are using against you because they know you probably, in most likelihood, do not know this. Let alone, would you ever be motivated enough to look into it and comprehend it? Let alone to look into it, comprehend it, and then teach it to the younger generation. Wake up, people. This is how they are tricking you into hypothecating, pledging your authority as co-creators of your offspring to the state. Quit doing it. I urge you, I urge you, I urge you. Educate yourself. Just because you graduated high school doesn't mean that's the end of your education. It means that's the end of your indoctrination. Now you're free. Now you can learn whatever you want without being inhibited by teachers, instructors, principals, hall monitors, other students, parents caught up in cognitive dissonance. Expand your knowledge. Alyssa, I know you're a young one if you're still watching. Educate yourself, and I know you do that well already. I'm just giving you a pat on the back, girl. Keep up the good work. Anyway, that's all I got for today, folks. God bless. Glad you're all here. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. Have a great day.